Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we are unpacking a truly profound philosophical text by the thinker Ali Muhammad al-Sharafa al-Hamadi. It's called Mercy, the Key to Life in the Quran. Now, whether you're already deeply familiar with this subject or just kind of fascinated by the foundational structures of human society, you're going to love this breakdown. We're going to explore a concept that, honestly, we talk about all the time, but we rarely understand at a structural level.
This text, which was published by the Universal Message of Peace Foundation, offers us a really fast, yet incredibly deep journey right into the core of human existence. You see, the author isn't just giving us some standard theological commentary here. He's literally laying out a comprehensive blueprint for how societies either thrive or completely tear themselves apart. And the crazy part? It all hinges on one single, often totally misunderstood word.
So let me ask you, is mercy just a feeling? Think about it for a second. When we hear the word mercy, we naturally assume it's just this soft, pleasant emotion, right? We think of it as a fleeting moment of pity or maybe a nice gesture. But our source text today flips that assumption entirely on its head. Al-Sharafa al-Hamadi argues that this common view is fundamentally flawed. In fact, he says that looking at mercy just as a feeling severely limits our understanding of how life is actually supposed to work.
So here's how we're going to map out this concept today. First, we'll look at why it's more than just an emotion. Second, mercy in the circles of life. Third, the integration of mercy and justice. And finally, a comprehensive universal lifestyle. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, more than just an emotion.
The text points out a really fascinating detail right out of the gate. The divine message establishes its baseline in mercy from the very beginning. I mean, every single time someone opens the Quran, it begins by invoking God's names that are explicitly rooted in mercy. And that's not a coincidence. It's a foundational baseline. We see this perfectly in the central thesis verse. We have not sent you but as a mercy to the worlds. The author emphasizes a critical reality here. The divine message was designed for tranquility and guidance. It was absolutely never intended to cause endless suffering, physical exhaustion, or to trap humanity in perpetual conflict. Its primary overriding goal? Guiding people to psychological peace.
Which brings us to this crucial redefinition. Mercy is not a weakness. It's not some concession prize you hand out when you lose an argument. According to the text, mercy is the foundational backbone upon which stability, balance, and literally all of human existence are built. Think of it like a load-bearing wall in a house. The author warns us that without this specific structural pillar, any human endeavor, relationship, or society is going to inevitably collapse.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mercy in the Circles of Life. So, what does that actually look like on the ground? I want you to visualize what happens when that foundational backbone is stripped away from our daily interactions. What does a world without that load-bearing wall actually look like? Well, the text draws a very stark contrast. A society without mercy quickly devolves into strife, fear, cruelty, and political oppression. It just becomes this brutal environment where fear dictates behavior. But on the flip side, a life infused with mercy yields tranquility, open dialogue, security, and stability. In this framework, mercy acts as a protective filter. It blocks out social collapse and guarantees a baseline of security and psychological peace for everybody involved. And this brilliance applies directly to our closest circles too. Just look at how mercy transforms our immediate relationships. Spouses become partners in love, rather than adversaries locked in a constant power struggle. Children are viewed as a sacred trust that needs care, not just some exhausting burden. Parents are treated with deep righteousness and appreciation. And honestly, perhaps most remarkably, even opponents, people you fundamentally disagree with, are engaged with dialogue and wisdom. Applying mercy literally turns homes from battlegrounds into sanctuaries.
Now this brings us to Section 3, Integration of Mercy and Justice.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is that it tackles a very common myth. We tend to think justice and mercy are contradictory, right? Like if you're merciful, you can't be just, and if you're strict about justice, you can't be merciful. But this text completely dispels that. Here's the core of the argument. Justice protects human dignity, sure, but mercy gives justice its human soul. The author is very clear. Mercy doesn't mean just pardoning an oppressor at the expense of a victim. That wouldn't be justice at all. Instead, true mercy works in perfect harmony with justice to build a cohesive, fair society. Justice ensures everyone gets their rights, and mercy ensures that the whole process remains deeply, fundamentally human.
And we see this perfectly reflected in the divine model of mercy. The text highlights such a beautiful concept. The door of hope is always open. Look, we're human beings. We're inherently flawed. We make mistakes. We stumble. And the divine model completely recognizes this human weakness. So instead of permanent condemnation and despair, this model prioritizes a continuous path of repentance, reform, and course correction. It's a whole system built on hope rather than finality.
And building directly on that idea, the author points to what he calls the absolute pinnacle of divine mercy: freedom of choice. The text emphasizes that true faith has to stem from internal conviction, from awareness, and from free will. It absolutely cannot be built on fear or coercion, giving humanity the freedom to choose their own path, even if they end up making the wrong choice. That is the ultimate expression of a merciful framework.
Which leads us to our final stop, Section 4, a comprehensive universal lifestyle.
All right, let's zoom out to the widest circle of our journey. So far, we've really just talked about human interactions, but mercy expands way outward to the entire universe, the environment, and all living creatures. The text argues that a truly merciful approach actually mandates that we preserve natural resources. We are called to treat nature kindly, to deal with all living creatures with compassion, and to actively build up and sustain the earth, rather than just exploiting or corrupting it. It's an ecological imperative totally driven by this philosophy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the incredible chain reaction outlined by the author. It's like a domino effect. It all starts with step 1, a single, merciful individual. That individual positively impacts their family. That family strengthens the wider society. That society builds a robust nation. And ultimately, this chain reaction scales all the way up to build a complete, thriving civilization. It is a compounding effect where just one single core value ends up building the entire human enterprise.
Which brings us to the conclusion. And the author leaves us with this really powerful, lingering question. Can any society actually survive on material power alone? I mean, think of all the technology, the immense wealth, the sheer physical might a society can amass today. The firm, undeniable answer from this text is no. Without the core, load-bearing pillars of mercy, justice, and faith, any society is incredibly fragile. No matter how much material might it has, without mercy, it is ultimately doomed to collapse. It's a fascinating paradigm shift, isn't it? Placing compassion not as some optional luxury, but as the absolute key to survival.
مؤسسة رسالة السلام العالمية، رسالة إنسانية لعالم أكثر سلاماً.